So for those who don't know, because this episode I'm sure will have a bit of controversy just because of the fact that I guess a lot of what happened in this episode did happen in the manga, the original author, the mangaka who worked on The Promised Neverland, is actually working heavily with the anime studio, and in fact I believe they wrote and scripted this episode in particular. So a lot of the new content that we're going to see in this season was actually written by the person who wrote the original story. And there's going to be speculation on why things are going to be new, maybe change. I heard a character was supposed to appear last week that didn't. From my interpretation, I imagine if they're not going to wrap up the story this season, which I don't think they will for an anime rushed ending or anything, I think the reason, because this is an 11-episode season, what they're doing is they're changing things, adding new things, in order to sort of adapt the previous arc that we're clearly adapting right now, but adding changes where necessary, so they can end it in a decent way to then reintroduce maybe so-called cut elements for a third season, and then we'll continue probably as per usual. Or what's happening is, because I heard a lot of people weren't a fan of the manga's ending, maybe they're starting to change things in order to give a different ending. Hard to say. All I can say is that the original author is writing it, and so far I'm really enjoying it. I mean, I do have unpopular opinions when it comes to adaptation accuracy. I personally don't care if things are page for page, I just want the anime in question to be enjoyable. But I do want to throw that out there to hopefully maybe sway some people who probably are worried because they're like, oh, this never happened in the manga. I'm wondering if this is going to be completely bad, it's going to butcher the manga story. I mean, if the mangaka themselves is writing it, you're probably in safe hands. Granted, maybe they don't always have the best intentions, but still, I probably would say wait to see the full thing before really kind of sounding the alarm bells, because if the original author knows their story, they should be able to do something quite good for the anime, and the anime is the anime, you always have the manga to go back to. With that said though, it's no real surprise that the bunker ended up in a sort of catastrophe. It kind of had to happen, it feels like. But at the same time, there was definitely some unexpectedness with how it occurred, because with last week's kind of like help me message and then the phone call, you think something's bad gonna happen. I was still convinced that Minerva had good intentions, and seemingly Minerva had good intentions. The thing that kind of caught me off guard, but makes sense in hindsight, is that it was actually a recording, it wasn't actually Minerva. I was kind of going on the impression that maybe it was like a family chain, that the previous Minerva kind of had like a kid who had a kid who had a kid, and maybe they've been working as a family to do like an underground railroad sort of a situation from like, you know, back in our own history to help people who were enslaved and things like that. But the fact that it was just a recording saying like, I wish I could be there for you, I wanted to help you, but I'm bound by this promise, so I built this bunker. You can live here forever, or you can put in future into your pen and you can go to the human side. I think it's really sweet, and I think if you look at our own history, things like this have happened where, you know, selfless people have gone out of their way to help those even at the risk of their own life, and in the case of Minerva, seemingly was, you know, the cost of his own life. So it's quite interesting how we kind of get the clarification of the books and why things happen, but at the same time, you're wondering, I mean, seriously, you got help in the, like, everywhere. Like, there's gotta be something happening here. Like, there's no way that after this message, after seeing, you know, everything we just saw, that they can just continue. I mean, granted, they're kids, right? So they think, oh, we'll use this as a bunker, we'll rescue the others, and then we'll pursue the human side. And then, as the episode gets going and as it gets cuter and cuter, you just, at least I know for myself, was so concerned. I mean, there was a quick moment where my guard dropped, and that's when they were eating these like gooey fish that are like fish on land, and they attach themselves to trees like slugs. It is so creepy, but it's kind of amazing to see the difference in like animal and like insect life out there, and the idea of like testing it, like, hey, you know, we have 3 kids here testing, seeing is it good, and then eventually they can't take it anymore and they just kind of grub out because it's so delicious. You're having all this great content that's wholesome, and I think you need that before shoving it down their faces that they're not going to have a happy life for a while, if ever, because they are kids. Despite being more intelligent, more athletic, more suited for kind of combat adult life than most people out there, they are kids. So the idea of giving them that hope, and the idea of giving them kind of like charging up their battery as if they're a rechargeable battery. They got like 50% charged, they were drained beyond drained, they're still trying to turn on that light bulb, and they're finally starting to recover, and then an explosion happens. And honestly, maybe this was foolish of me. I was actually wondering if maybe, just maybe, because clearly it's been a while since the last group of kids were here, obviously the last group probably, yeah, they needed help, there was some bad people approaching. What if these were normal humans? Because when the one guy kind of appeared in the communications room, or kind of like the monitor room, I thought the reaction was like, oh, this actually seems like a human being like, oh, you're not demons, we actually want to help you. And then you get the realization that, nah, they're on their own. I'm glad that they went the direction of just, they got lucky in terms of escaping, because this is a forest that literally we kicked off the show with its second season. Giant ass beasts. There is so much insanity in these woods that if you're firing machine guns wildly, you're probably gonna draw attention. And the fact that that's the reason they got away is because, you know, they literally got jumped by a giant ass beast. Honestly, to me, some people may say is too lucky of a coincidence. There's no other way they could have. They had bows and arrows against machine guns and body armor. How the hell are you going to defeat that? And there's no way it's going to end here, right? Because if they get dragged back, I mean, sure, they might be able to escape again, but would it be all that interesting after already seeing that type of escape before? No, it'd be more interesting in seeing like a forest escape. So I think that's going to be fascinating because they really were kind of set. They had a game plan, and even though the game plan was destined to fail, it was the best thing they've had in quite some time, and now it's hard to say. Like, if you were logical and you removed all emotions, the plan is go to the human side, abandon everyone else, because honestly, it seems impossible to get everyone to safety. But if it's your family, and that was a big core theme of season 1, you don't abandon your family, even if it means you die in the process. And I think that's important, and I think that's what separates characters like Emma from your run-of-the-mill, like, oh, you know, they're just going to be the hero and then they have to realize that they have to abandon their humanity. A lot of people, if they have a good connection with their family, would rather die for their family than live a happy-go-lucky life as they get fed off to be someone's dinner, right? And I love that about the show, is how they give you those moral dilemmas, and logically you know what they should do, but emotionally you know what they should do, and they're always conflicting with one another. The Mama content, though, I have to say, was unexpected. Not only does she have a chance at literally being free, no number on the neck, no monitor in the heart, you're free, something else was whispered in order to make the deal so worth it, that if you bring every single one back, this is what you get. While some people I think may want to say, oh, doesn't that kind of counter that maybe there's like a redemption arc for Mama? No, not in the slightest, because really, if you are kind of raised in this way for so long, even if you see hints of like characters escaping, maybe breaking away, at the end of the day, you know what the system is, and you have a chance at total freedom, even if they are your kids, quote unquote. And who doesn't want to see Mama Isabella come back swinging harder than ever? I think this episode was exhilarating, and while I do think there will be probably controversy, just because anytime there's original content or it deviates from the source material, even if it's written by the original author, you know, people will have their opinions formed and they'll refuse to change it. For me, I look at the anime, I'm reviewing the anime, as much as I'm always interested to say, like, hey, how was the adaptation accuracy? That's not going to change my opinion, and sometimes people take that a little too personally. It feels like I've actually had people tell me to kill myself because I didn't care that the anime was different than the manga, and I'm just like, my man, you gotta calm down here. I love this episode. I think in terms of if we're comparing the eventfulness from, say, the past 2 episodes, I wouldn't say it's as eventful in certain cases, but it's still, if you take episodes 2, 3, and 4, it really does shape the foundation of the season in such a way that it doesn't go where I was expecting walking into the season, and that's really exciting. I mean, the crushing defeat in these kids' voices, it's painful, but also the fact that, you know, they had game plans even in the middle of running away, I thought was great. It's just such a great show. It's always one of my most anticipated shows every single week. Thursday's best day of the week for anime for me. 3 great shows that I'm watching back to back, and it's always a blast. But let me know your thoughts and feelings, and definitely your theories. It'll be fun to hear theories if apparently it's as different as even manga readers are saying. So let me know your feelings down below. If you enjoyed the video, leave a like to show your support, and hit that subscribe button if you're happy new around here. So until next time, everyone, please take care and have a good one.